I'm Shawna Robins, CEO and founder of Third Spark, and today I'm doing an Authority Magazine interview on how to build stress resilience with a positive mindset. And I have Dr. Valerie Girard with me. Dr. Valerie Girard is a practicing chiropractor, a writer, a quantum influencer, and a meditation teacher. She has developed a unique healing system called PanHarmonic Healing, and her podcast, Upleveling Humanity, is offered on YouTube as the QuantumWhisperer. She shares her advice on physical and spiritual well-being through her lectures, her books, and her blogs. Valerie, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm so glad that our friendship has allowed us to connect in this way and on this platform.
Thank you. You're just always so gracious. So it's just a pleasure to be with you.
Aw, and I feel the same way with you too. All right, so in today's fast-paced world, we all know that stress is a completely inevitable part of life. And so learning to manage and respond to stress, I believe, has such a significant, well, and science shows us, right? It makes such a significant difference in our overall well-being and in our health and wellness. So I really want to talk to you today about developing a positive mindset to create stress resilience, because I know that this is something that is near and dear to your heart, and it's certainly near and dear to mine.
So give me one of your fabulous questions.
So my question to you is, talk to me about stress. Talk to me about your definition of stress. I know before I hit record, we were talking about attachments, right? And ego and things like that that create stress in someone's life. So tell me a little bit about what you define as stress and then the mindset around how to deal with that.
Well, we can define stress on a lot of different levels. I mean, we can talk about physiology. So we have this sympathetic nervous system. So you have sympathetic and parasympathetic, and they try to balance each other. And sympathetic is just to get you out of danger fast. And all responses in the body go to a different level so that you can move fast in primitive world, stay away from the tiger. That's how I think about it. The parasympathetic, on the other hand, is the thing that without you ever having a thought, keeps your breathing going, keeps your metabolism going, keeps your digestion going, your heart beating. It's absolutely amazing. And what happens is, in this world, I think I think we don't have tigers. We have lots of, let's just say, bumblebees at us. There's just so many things that we have to attend to in order to be functioning beings. Be someone who has a job, who has a family, who has kids, who's got creative aspirations. We're multitaskers now, especially women. That's just what has been our role. So to me, what I notice is what stresses somebody is not going to stress somebody else. So then that leads us to restimulation. So whatever that thing that has just happened, that you could allocate as a stressor, it's yours. Now, obviously, if someone runs a red light and crashes into your car, right. But most of the stressors that we encounter are things that we've set up in our life, we've set in motion, and then when they don't go the way that we want, the way that we expect, we have a stress response, right? And so the thing that I'm really focusing on now is very age old spiritual expression, which is non-attachment. And so when something does come up or you're confronted with something, what I developed for myself and my students is ORDER, order. Observe, resolve, dissolve, evolve, and then there's this revolve, which indicates that feeling of that spiraling up that you and I have talked about in the past. So that as you evolve, you're not just saying, oh, I'm never going to do that again. You actually get an aha out of the experience, like, oh my gosh, this is what I do. Oh, wow. Okay. And again, when you have that observation, really important not to include judgment in that.
And self-judgment, right? That's what this is.
Oh, self-judgment
Yeah.
being, yes, either one. And I always go back to that beautiful biblical quote, judge not, lest ye be judged. But I think Terry Cole Whitaker came up with an even better one, more inspiring to me, that if I judge myself or another person, that instantaneously for that moment separates me from the divine.
Mm.
And I've noticed that. There's a particular feeling that happens almost physiologically, if not emotionally and mentally, if I slip into a judgment or if I even hear somebody else's judgment about something. I can feel a little like a moment of dis-ease there, like, and then it passes. But, sometimes we react, don't we, Shawna?
Yes. Well, we're humans, right? I mean, and we're triggered and we're trying to live in this planet and all of the ups and downs, and now trying to live in this country with all of the ups and downs. And so, because of that, I think you touched on the idea of being separate, right? And not only separate through self-judgment and judgment of others, but also just feeling separate from what your community, your loved ones, nature, the things that we need to fortify ourselves in times of stress. And so, how do you break through this feeling of us and them, this polarization of separateness?
Boy, I think those are all really good points and questions. First, I just, for me, I want to note that on the planet uh, there's polarity. And it does kind of make, positive, negative. And without judging or assessing anything to either one of those poles, so we just know that it exists. And I also know that diversity of opinion or life path, it's been on the planet for a very, very, very long time. I think we come here perhaps to experience the nature of polarity. Like, wow, that's really interesting. And what goes along with that is gravity. So we're having these things kind of pull us down. And also there's this other physics term called entropy. Well, entropy is if you don't add energy to a system, it kind of falls to ruin. And, like if you left your house for, 1,000 years, it would eventually fall to ruin. Just like our bodies, if we don't put uh, energy contributing elements into our lives, we fall to ruin. So when you look at that diversity, again, recognize what doesn't resonate as you. So if someone, say, is expounding judgment and hate and division and all of that stuff, instead of pointing a finger and say, oh, look what they're doing, say, that doesn't really resonate with me. And there's a tone there, right? A tonality, like I'm noticing that's not me. And then I go, well, so what is me? Well, me is this being that really wants to contribute to the upleveling of our reality, not just the planet, but our reality. It's got to start here. So I have to walk my talk. I have to be that in a household or be that in a family or be that in my workplace or be that in my community. Those are really tangible things I can do. But in time space, then I have to hold myself is in a way, I don't want to say neutral because I don't really ever want to support those things that we just spoke about, whether it be hatred or any of those things. But at the same time, I want to observe them and then have them spur me on to additional kindness. that's my guest counterpoint. Best counterpoint is to say, okay, every day I am going to do something that is kind.
Mm.
Maybe 10 things. And I'm really lucky in my practice that I get to do that more times than not with people. And sometimes it's a kind word, it's a positive, affirmation of someone, or it's a hug, right?
And I so love that you bring this up because, from my point of view, the teachings that I do with sleep and health and wellness, especially with women, but men too. In fact, I was telling you before, I was having a conversation with my editor before this, and we were discussing the hierarchy of hormones. And the number one hormone that your body wants to make is oxytocin. And when your
Mhm.
body is making oxytocin, guess what? It can't make cortisol, right? And so here we are talking about resilience and mindset around stress when you touch on the absolute physiological point that happens in our body, that the more you build your oxytocin through connecting with loved ones, through being kind, through hugging, through petting your taking caring for a loved one, a pet, a child, whatever, right? All of these things build oxytocin. And then there you go. That's the perfect antidote to stress. It'll naturally lower your cortisol levels without you making any effort whatsoever. So I love that you come at this from this mindset of kindness. And then I appreciate what I can see as the physiological effects of your mindset and how much that helps people to lower stress in their life.
I also want to speak to something I've observed over many, many years, and that is I have a very strong intention to evolve and to, for lack of a better word, self-realize. So I want to self-realize my highest potential here this time, just two. So in that process, what happens is that intention kind of comes through my body and my mind, and it comes up against a little resistance somewhere from my history, childhood, um, reflections, etc. And every week it seems like in that process of evolving that I'm gonna come up against something that I'm attached to,
Mm.
or that is an unresolved from the past, or a trauma, or even a habit. I'm going to come up against it. And then I have to apply, my spiritual processes to that energy, to that without judging that issue. I have to kind of go into it, be conscious in it, observe it, and move through it. The feelings, the thoughts, all of that go with it. And with that idea, okay, I'm going to allow myself to get it, to get this lesson. So I've really come to this idea that your ego is the disher up of your next lesson. And if you just have that attitude and the ego becomes your friend in that way,
Mm.
rather than the thing that you put yourself down about, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was no, it's like, oh, wow, how interesting. I did that. Huh. Oh, I know why I did that. XYZ happened to me when I was 12. So I think that, you and I have talked about the spiral, and I think it's very pertinent to our process this time and to make friends with any aspect of our life that's showing us the next moment of evolution that's presenting itself in our kind of our spiral of up leveling.
Mm. So how is it that what recommendations can you give for people who are very interested and motivated in walking this path, but have a hard time being in touch with what is coming up for them in the moment? Like, I feel like our life is so full of distractions. And so I found myself, and one of the reasons why I met you was because I start to feel it in my physical body, right?
Mhm.
The neck pain, the back pain, the insomnia, like these things that come up for me because the tension has come to such a point that now it's really yelling at me to pay attention to it. So tell me, in your practice as being a chiropractor and a healer, what you see that people typically deal with when the stress is there, when the triggers are there, when the attachments are there, when the ego is up. that so they can learn to be more aware of the process in their body.
Well, I think you've hit on some really great points there. And what I've noticed over, 42 years is that if we don't get a lesson that's coming up and coming through for us, right, the body will somaticize it. Mm. And there's some very specific things that people show up with. There's even a back problem that I know the minute I see it, they have something emotional going on. And so I just, in a kind way, say, hey, what's going on? And get people to share while I'm working on them. And obviously, there's some wear and tear that happens over the course of our decades, and we have to, be tender and kind about those things because of gravity and that force pulling us to the earth, keeping us from floating away. I think my main recommendation is that somehow, if there is a feeling in the body that doesn't feel right, before it becomes something, you go, God, something doesn't feel right. You notice it instead of glazing over it and going and doing that whole shopping for groceries. You're like, I feel a little out of it. I'm going to sit for a minute and just kind of check in. So that's an A. B, I think it's really important if we can at all be reminded to observe our thoughts, because thoughts create negative responses to life experiences, or even something that could even be neutral becomes a stressor if we have a judgment or if we have a reaction about it. It's a practice. It's it's not an instant, okay, from now on I will. It's a practice. Mm. And what I've come to is I've developed some, I call them spiritual hacks, because a hack is something that you can do. Put these three things together and, clean your pots and look, they're shiny again. That's what a hack is. So one of my main hacks is,
shortcuts in a way, right? Spiritual
yeah,
shortcuts, right?
spiritual shortcuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm, let's say, upset about something, and I'm in my car, and I got two choices. If it's an emotion I can, express, I can identify and express. So, if I'm sad about something, the tears, or something's really like, bleh, I shake. Or if I'm kind of about it, I learned this from my dog. Arr, arr, arr. Arr, 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 arr. And I can drive and do my RRRs. Oh. And it takes me about 5 RRRs and I'm done. Mm. I'm done. Arr, arr, and I'm done. And then at that moment, I pull in an I am.
Mm. Tell me about that.
I, capital A, capital M, I am, which is more of a declaration. I call it a declarative. I am love. I am peace. I am one. That one really, really does it, because it takes this experience that you are over there and you did this to me and this and that. And I resolve my judgment and I go, I am one. And I just be that. And really, I can do that whole process in 5 minutes.
From the practice. Right? How long have you been practicing this for?
Well, I would say this particular practice has just been in the last year or two, because I'm teaching these classes. I'm a downloader. I'm a serial downloader since I was 33, I think is when it started. And I made an agreement that I'm going to open my intuition, my channels, just give it to me. If there's something that I can do to be a better person, or if I can help others, students, patients, give it to me. And it's really funny sometimes. It works, but I'm in continual learning mode, and it's really quite something. So in the last especially this year, I really focused on those I ams. And about 30 plus years ago, one of my downloads was the series of I am, about 20 of them that have to do with more of the divine feminine.
Mhm.
I feel would be really fabulous for that to become more a part of our planetary spiritual path rather than so much of it is the masculine, God this, Yahweh this, Allah that. We do need to start nurturing that feminine as a balance, not as an overpowering or a replacement, but just as that balance,
Mhm.
you know, divine masculine, divine feminine, and how they come together. I feel the divine masculine comes through me this way. I feel the feminine come up this way.
Mm.
So moving into one of my I ams, and peace and love are divine feminine, interestingly enough. The other thing that I do when I'm not quite getting through it as quickly as I'd like, I say love, 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 one word. And I write it out as one word, love, 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 love. And what it does, if I'm thinking those three bursts of love, 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 and repeat it over and over again, I'm not thinking that negative thought about, well, that person, PO'd me. Okay. Um, I'm not going, well, they should have. Well, why did they? I'm not doing a they. I'm doing a replacement. I'm owning that I'm having a burst. I call them ego bursts. Um, and if I can just shift to love in that moment, and sometimes it takes me saying it 10 times. And if I really get it, and then I'm clear, then I just move on. If I still need a little up leveling, then I do an I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I love that. So identify it, express it, and then replace the negative thought that's triggering you with something more positive, right? And a positive thing that you resonate with, something that is personal to you, right? In a way that will retrain your brain into seeing something that's more positive in the moment. I am peace, like you said, or I am love. I think being able to use those things every day, that's something that you can use anytime, any place, anywhere. And I feel like it's really important that we really start diving into these tools, really leaning into these tools, because I think that this is going to help to guide us through the polarities. Like you said, the polarities aren't going anywhere on the planet, right? We have night and day. This is what we have, we have
exactly.
seasons. Nature is set up so that there are polarities. And there's wisdom to that and there's beauty to that. And so being able to live within the polarity as opposed to wanting it to just be night all the time or day all the time, right? It's not possible. So finding a way to live in this middle ground where you can incorporate skills and tools to keep yourself in a state of homeostasis and balance is I feel, the most important walk that you can be taking right now.
And I think that would you just, for our listeners, define homeostasis? It's a really good word. Go ahead.
My definition of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see it in the form of the body, the system of the body, right? The body is
Right.
always trying to keep itself in a homeostasis. That's always trying to keep the same insulin level and glucose level and your sleep and your even just your physical temperature of your system, right? And how many, what your blood cell count is and all of these things, right? I'm always thinking about it from this physical system, but then there's other systems, right? There's the nature system, there's the family system, there's the work system, there's all these other governances that happen in our life, the way we treat one another, the way we speak to ourselves, um, and the things that come into that break up the ability to keep a level of balance. Where even if it goes up a little bit here, then this rises naturally to counterbalance it. And to me, that's what homeostasis is. What would you find your definition to be?
I think it's just everything that you've said, and I think what you're saying here is if you can, we're talking about how let's say how our ego responses to stress will change our physiology because it does. You know, you know, whatever your emotion is, it will change your physiology. And in sometimes that expression, you see something and you cry. Well, you're crying about more than that thing, and that's okay. The gate opens, you cry. I have to have to admit, I did a lot of crying, in the last week, and I think it was existential. And I think that sometimes big things happen out there that affect us in our small way here. Um, and it's part of an up leveling to go through that and to recognize, well, hey, this makes me feel this way, and I'm concerned about that. And I am not, I'm combating a little bit of hopelessness in this moment, whatever it is, to take those things in and to recognize them and be present with them and process them so that your physical body then returns to that homeostasis. If you are in homeostasis and you're in that level of love peace, I'm going to say, because when you're in self-love, that is very much promotes homeostasis in the body. When you're at peace and everything can kind of, that autonomic nervous system can just work and do its whole thing, especially with the parasympathetic, let everything run, let the immune system go. No, not you. No, yes, you. In the gut, yes, you get to stay. We've got these amazingly brilliant systems in our body. I never get over how brilliant the body is and how it's our vehicle of expression, both physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And here's what you're saying, energetically. So by taking homeostasis beyond the body and saying homeostasis in the family life, homeostasis in the workplace, homeostasis in community, and maybe you are the thymus of the community, love, love, and maybe someone else is the adrenals and like energy, and somebody else is the lungs. When we are really in that balance and we walk it and talk it, it has this experience, it has this possibility of affecting the field beyond this vehicle here. And here's the other thing that I say, and you and I have talked about this. If, for instance, there are 8 beings who can move themselves even for 5 minutes into that level of homeostasis and take on an I am and really feel, I'm willing now to relegate my human nature to a little tiny bead here, and I'm going to bring in this divine, because I, capital A, capital N, is divinity. It's the divine expression of love. It's the divine expression of peace. Okay. If I can bring that in, and now there's 8 of us, and we just move into that state together, create even a larger homeostatic field. Because when you have 8 electrons around a neutron, you've got this empowered homeostasis that is just can really affect beyond it as a unit. 8, or when you have that 8 in that homeostasis and really can step into one of those IMs, you can create anything. You can manifest rain. We've done it over and over and over again. As you know, we had a lake that went down to 6% full, feeding all of Santa Barbara. And all the different groups I work with, I go, do we agree that there's going to be rain this year? We're going to fill the lake. And 2 years in a row, we've done it after years and years of drought. So I believe that. I believe. So I'm gonna employ that, and I've seen it work over and over again. So the homeostasis can be enhanced by your I am. You see? So here I am, I'm a human, I'm homeostatic, but now I bring in I am love. And it's so strong. And I keep saying that. And then I walk into a grocery store. What if you had 10 IMs in a grocery store? Just walking around, doing the shopping, smiling, right? It would change the whole vibration of that store for that period.
Mhm.
So we have this power not only to affect ourselves energetically, to affect our health energetically, to affect our emotional and mental state energetically, but we have the ability now, really, we have the technology spiritually to make a difference, not only in our community, but in our world. And this is what we need to be about right now. So when there are factions that are migrating away from what we're talking about, you just say, okay, that's their choice, but that strengthens my resolve to be this I am,
Mhm.
right? To to be a guiding force. It could be one sentence I say, one hug, or it could be a group that I'm working with. Now, I wanted to point out, because I just remembered this, if people are in fact like, well, what are you talking about this I am? I did a series of 20 delineation of I ams. One of them could be I am attraction. One of is as I am expression. One of them, peace, love, freedom. I did those over a course of 20 weeks at the beginning of this year, and they're all on that YouTube channel and they're free. You can just you can scroll through and go like, well, what's that one? I'm curious, and pop it on and get some ideas that would enhance your resonance with it, or you're like, hey, I'm going to say that once in a while to myself. So I just had that thought because those 20 I am divine feminine are delineated. At some point, I'm going to do the divine masculine. We're going to do a series of that. I got that the other day.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. So tell me, where can people find you? You mentioned your YouTube channel. Give us, where are you on social media? How can people connect with you? Your website, all of that good stuff.
So the website is thequantumwhisperer.com. And we're in the process of enhancing it, been focusing on other things. There's a lot to be learned on the YouTube channel. I think there's 170 um, available videos that are free. There are also some classes, and I can be reached at probably classes at panharmonic.com if you're interested in that. I definitely have a Facebook presence, Valerie Girard. And I'm developing, just getting started with the Quantum Whisperer Facebook page. We'll
Mhm.
see how that goes. Multitasking as we spoke about, Shawna.
I love it, Valerie. You're an amazing multitasker. Well, thank you for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to do this interview with you. And I hope that those who watch this are able to really take away some things that they can do starting today, starting now, to really help with their stress and their mindset. And like you said, not only just their own physical physiology, but that of also all the systems that operate around them too, in sharing, positivity and kindness and love. And you elevate yourself, like you said, and then you elevate others around you, and that over time elevates the planet. So it's just such great work that you're doing here.
Well, and I love, love, love your attention to it. Not only, in your work here, but I know with your family. So it's really quite beautiful.
Thank you for joining me.
Okay. Bye. Namaste.
Namaste.